see divinity in you. I see the Christ coming through in all of my passion for life and for love, in all of the glory that you are made of, now and forever, on earth and above. I see divinity in you. I feel divinity in me. I feel the Christ coming through, exploring the vision that I've never known, inviting the presence. I am not alone, accepting the Spirit of Christ as my own. I feel divinity in me. I see the wonder we are, shining a light through the dark. We don't have tomorrow, but we have today. Let none of its treasure go slipping away. Here and hereafter, through love we can say, I see the wonder we are. I see the wonder we are.
Good morning, Unity of Payson. I'm delighted that you're here with us today. We are virtual completely today. We're being cautious. I'm Rev Neal Worthington. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. And you take a moment to just be with me in quiet as we pray the prayer of invocation. We ask for blessing. God of all goodness, we are grateful that divinity is in us and that we see that divinity in each other. We have a choice as to where we look and what we see. Let us see with eyes of spirit the divinity that we are. So today, as we consider again newness of life, let us keep that divinity in mind for ourselves and for every other human who walks this earth. We are all divine. I'm grateful for everyone who's joined us, everyone who will see this recording at a later date or time. I'm grateful for the goodness that supports everything that happens in this world, that lies underneath it. We are so blessed, and I am grateful, and so it is. Amen.
So welcome again to Unity of Payson. My name is Donna. I'm your platform hostess this morning. We're glad you're with us. And we want to recognize anyone who is new. If you're here with us in person, not in person, sorry. If you're here with us for the first time, please leave your contact information in the chat, or you can go to unityofpayson.org and leave your contact information there. Also, you may like to stay after so Reverend Neal can greet you personally. Again, we warmly welcome you. And from our Unity of Payson family, we say together, we love you, we bless you, we welcome you. And now it's time for our opening song, Swing Wide the Doors.
Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Here we go now. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. About lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. There's a voice that I've heard for years. I learned to keep it inside. Well, now it's coming in loud and clear. I want a deeper life. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. About lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. All right now, swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine.
All right, now it's time for our gratitudes. We are grateful for those who support Unity of Payson with your time, with your talent, and your treasure. We're treasures. We're grateful for the events of last week, which included Morning Cafe, Nonviolent Communication as Spiritual Practice, Qigong and Tai Chi, and a Harmony Hike. We're thankful for the technology that allows us to meet both in person and virtually, right now, virtually, as we assess the situation in this town. So, unity is grounded in meditation and affirmative prayer. We have trained prayer chaplains to support you. Our chaplains are available to pray with you. You may call or email your request to Reverend Neal at neal.unityofpayson@gmail.com. Our prayer team and Silent Unity will join you in prayer for 60 days. All prayer requests are held sacred and confidential. Please leave a phone number or email with your request, and a chaplain will contact you. And our Unity Worldwide theme, actually, it's our Unity of Payson theme, is newness of life. And let's say the affirmation together. I open myself to change, follow the direction of spirit, and experience life anew. Today's speaker is Reverend Neal Worthington, and the title of his talk is To Remember, to Renew, to Rejuvenate. And our metaphysical moment. Truth transcends our physical experience of life and of our world. Please join with me as we consider this expression of truth. And so I'm reading today from the Daily Word. I love today's Daily Word, Sunday, January 16th, 2022. Rise. I rise in consciousness to help create a world that works for all. Throughout time, there have been people who led lives that changed the world forever. Their words and deeds provided hope and inspiration for those who would carry forth their legacies of love, growth, and evolution long after they left this life. Their most powerful contribution, however, was their ability to inspire others to express their own divine purpose. As more and more people reach their highest potential, the whole of humanity ascends. Today, I honor those who have led lives of service, striving for love, truth, and justice. I take steps, not just to commemorate their journeys and contributions, but to embark upon my own. I rise, grateful to contribute all I can to the growth and evolution of humankind. And from Ezra 10:4, take action, for we are with you. Be strong and do it. So a couple of thoughts passed my mind as I was reading the Daily Word. The saying, as I rise, we all rise. I love that saying because it just reminds me what is mine to do. And when I think of rising, I think of rising to the eternal truths about life, rising to the memory and the remembering of those truths, that I am divine life. I am divine wisdom. I am divine love. And so that's my share for today. And now our speaker, Reverend Neal Worthington, will share the message with us.
To remember, to renew, to rejuvenate. As I was thinking about this message, I had a recollection of my experience about 10 years ago when I spent some time in India, and one particular recollection, and I'd like to share that with you. Early one morning, I went with two friends and hopped in a taxi to go from the seaside town of Varkala to the big city, Trivandrum, an hour and a half away. But halfway through that trip that winded along highways that were filled with oxen pulling lumber and carts, filled with bicycles piled high with all sorts of goods, filled with cows being led from pasture to pasture, little motorbikes, tuk-tuks, we called them, those motorized rickshaws. Well, it was just pandemonium, chaos, following the rules, of course, of driving and using the road in India, which is one, obey the rules, two, there are no rules. And so that chaotic situation is wonderful and life-giving in and of itself, if a little bit precarious. But halfway through that trip, we stopped for breakfast. It wasn't a very prepossessing place. There was no sign for the restaurant. The restaurant was alongside of the road in an area where there were shops selling all sorts of goods, an auto repair store down just or shop down just a store or two. And right next to the restaurant was a collection point for things that could be reused or things that could be recycled. Because that happens in India a lot, reusing particularly. The restaurant, as I said, didn't have a big bright facade. It was, in fact, a somewhat crumbling hut with a palm tree roof. And the crowd was waiting outside, however, must be good. So we waited. The chai man came out to give us chai while we waited. And eventually we went into that restaurant. When we got into the restaurant, we sat at one of 8 places, capacity 8. And these were tables with a linoleum top fixed to the floor. Our backrest was stalks of bananas. And the fire, of course, the cooking fire was the focal point. And we awaited our breakfast. So not long after we got there, we were served a banana leaf put on the table right in front of us. That was our plate. And then we waited. We waited for the chef / priest. He seemed like a priest. He was bare-chested, and he just exuded the wisdom of the ages. And I think that was true for him, that he reached back in time to that ancient tradition, that Ayurvedic tradition that was a healing tradition. And so he brought that to the kind of a spiritual history. He brought that to this morning and my breakfast. Well, he also, being the healer that he was, in addition to being the chef, decided what it was that I should eat. Each person had a different prescription and was given different items on that banana leaf in different proportions. And so the breakfast proceeded with rice and some curries and a papadam, which is a kind of like a crispy taco sort of thing, a sambar to cover it all, and just fruit. And it was a wonderful combination of things for me. And as I ate it, I just knew that it was health-giving to me. It was life-giving to me. And it was very special. It was a wonderful breakfast, one I'll never forget. And I left wanting to come back again very soon. So there we have it, that experience that I had in India, kind of symbolizing the things we're talking about today. We're talking about remembering, going back, even in our physical history, but back even beyond that, to pull forward some of the truths, some of the wisdom that we can. And then we're talking about renewing, just like that recycling collection point was going to renew those materials, make them new and useful again. And we're also going to rejuvenate. We're going to take into ourselves that which builds us up, which gives us new life, gives us new youth. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I call them the 3 R's. The 3 R's, not reading, writing, and arithmetic like you know, but number 1, remember. Number 2, renew. Number 3, rejuvenate. So let's get at it and talk about what these mean for us. And for here, I turn to my friend Miriam, the librarian, as I call her, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, for the definitions, because they help us to understand this. And understanding is a critical part of the newness of life. Remember, the first one, to bring to mind or think of again. Well, when we talk about remembering, we're also talking about forgetting, because if we had not forgotten, we wouldn't have to remember, but forgetting. And for me, it's not just what I forgot that happened 10 minutes ago or yesterday or 10 years ago or even in my childhood. It's about remembering beyond that, beyond the parameters of this life. Maybe perhaps for those of you who are so inclined to other lives, other physical lives, but beyond even that, to the place where we were created. I believe that our beingness, our existence stretches back even to creation. And as we are able to stretch back, we're able to remember the very nature that we have, because we forgot that. It's part of the human deal. When we come to this earth and have a physical expression, we forget a lot. Reminds me of a story. I'm preparing for next week's or next month's series, which will be on forgiveness. And I was reading a book by Colin Tipping, Radical Forgiveness. Good book. I like it. But he gave an example in that book that I really love. The story goes like this. A young family had a new baby. There was a 3-year-old already, precocious and lively 3-year-old. And when the new baby came home, she was excited, very excited. And as they stood at the door of the nursery together, she said, "Can I go in and talk to the baby?" And they said, "Yeah, let's go in." And she said, "No, I mean, can I go in and talk to the baby by myself?" They were a little bit concerned at first, but there was a baby monitor. So they assented, and in she went. And as they're listening on the monitor, they hear this. She walks over to the baby in hushed tones and says this, "Baby, tell me about God. I'm beginning to forget." So it's my understanding that when we come into this physical plane, when we take on the incarnation, when we become physical, we forget. It's part of the deal. And maybe we remember a little bit when we're children still, but that gradually is ground away and we forget completely. And our process in terms of our spiritual journey is the journey to remember who we truly are, what our true nature is, and what our purpose in life may be, what our potential may be. So remember how important it is. A couple of things that I think are truths that I would like us to remember. I refresh my memory. One, I grew up believing that we were born into original sin. That was the doctrine that was preached for me. And it's only after a period of time in my life, as my journey proceeded, that I changed that and flipped it on its head and began to think that goodness was the very nature of us as divine expressions, because I came to believe that we were divine expressions. Matthew Fox uses that term in a book by him is titled Original Blessing. The idea that we begin with original blessing, we begin from the fount of goodness and not cursed, as it were, with original sin or something that was wrong with us, but our beginning that we are to remember is original blessing. And I think there's also a truth that I like. It's just a very human kind of thing. And that's that all of us, being divine expressions as we are, do the very best we can with what we have to work with. All of us do the very best. This is a great equalizer, because as we understand and live that out, it puts us on equal footing with everyone, not above anyone, not below anyone. We are one of a great oneness. Then I think the third thing, and the thing that really resonates the most with me, is that in this life, underlying every situation, attending everything that happens, is the sense of goodness. There is good underneath it all. Of course, we can't see that good at first glance sometimes. Sometimes it takes us quite a while to see that good, and we just don't get the big picture. But goodness underlies all of it. All things work together for good, as it is said. Those are the things that I remember. Then there's the word renew that's part of our message for today. And here's Merriam-Webster on renew. To make like new, to restore to freshness, vigor, or perfection. I'm going to use those words that Merriam gives us. And that is number one, freshness. I think this could be defined as the renewing of our mind. The renewing of our mind, making it fresh again. There's a wonderful scripture in the Christian scriptures in the book of Romans, and you're probably familiar with it. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformed by the renewing of your mind. Fresh, made new again. And then there's the idea of vigor. I use vigor mostly when I use the term invigorate. I like invigorate, really make alive, really bring to life again. Perhaps I was sleeping and I awaken and I think of something that I want to do, and all of a sudden I get charged. I'm invigorated. It's fresh, it's new, it's life-giving. There's also a scripture from the Hebrew scriptures that I like in regard to that, because vigor, I think, is renewing strength, not just physical strength, but strength of character, emotional strength, mental strength, all of these being renewed. The Hebrew scripture says this, and you're probably familiar with this as well. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. That eagle story is an enticing one. And there has been a myth put out there, which is very nice. It's a wonderful metaphor, but it's just not true. The metaphor goes something like this. At about 40 years of age, the eagle goes to the mountaintop, and on the mountaintop, it proceeds to work away, rubbing its beak away until the beak is gone and a new one can grow. Then when that new one has grown, it plucks out its feathers. It plucks off its talons and grows new ones. Well, that's not exactly so, but it is true that eagles lose their feathers. They molt. If you remember your grade school science, we were taught about molting, how birds would lose their feathers. So for a period of time, that eagle cannot fly, cannot sustain itself, and is flightless and, in a sense, powerless. But then those new feathers come in. And when they come in in a wonderful fashion so that the life of the eagle is renewed. The strength of the eagle is renewed, and it again can proceed to hunt and to soar as eagles do. Then there's that, not only the renewing of the mind, not only the renewing of strength, but the renewing of spirit as well. And that's talked about in terms of perfection. That was the word used in the definition. So if we go back again to that creation and the nature of who we are, and can for a moment suspend our belief so that we say we were created in perfection, and we strive to move forward to exhibit that perfection in life. It's not an impossible dream. It is possible, because that strength of spirit, that renewing of spirit can happen. I love the daily word and the idea of rising in consciousness, because that's what we do. We rise in consciousness. We renew the spirit within us. And we are, remember, primarily spiritual beings having a physical experience, as opposed to the other physical beings having a spiritual experience. So why is this important? A couple of things real quickly. We talked about purpose, and the daily word talked about purpose too. Purpose in life, when we get back far enough, when we get back to the point where we can remember, when we awaken enough to be able to remember some of these things, we know that there's a purpose. And sometimes we know exactly what the purpose is for us uniquely. Purpose in life. When we are able to take on this remembering, renewing, rejuvenating process, we're able to then take all of these tools, because they're kind of like tools, put them to work and live out our purpose in life. Then it's also true that using these tools will allow us to take the possibilities that are there for us, the potential that we have, and live that out more fully. So we talk often about how we are unlimited. We have unlimited possibilities. There's that maxim from the Christian scriptures that says, reported that Jesus said, "The things that I do, you'll do these and even greater things." We know that in our heads, and we do know on some level, as we begin to rise in consciousness, that there's a potential there for us that we haven't experienced before, that's far beyond what we think we can experience, but it's there. So I think experiencing that potential is one of the reasons we certainly want to use these tools. And then finally, the idea of serving others, and this service was talked about in the daily word as well. When we are renewed, when we remember who we really are, when we are given new vigor, when we're invigorated, when we're rejuvenated, then we can serve authentically. Lots of times we get hung up in thinking, well, I should serve, and I'll be a good guy if I do serve. But it's not an authentic, from the heart service. And as we're able to put these tools into play in our lives, then we are able to serve. That's why we want to use them, a true sense of service. So the question is now, how do we do this all? And Tom, I'd like you to put up that slide that I have so we can work with that. I'm going to do a couple of exercises. And these exercises are designed to do this, to bring back into our lives these tools. So as you see, it's to remember, to renew, to rejuvenate. Remembering, renewing, and rejuvenation are essential to experience newness of life. Let's go into that first exercise. And by the way, let me just mention that if you would like, if you're very fast at writing, you can copy this down, but maybe you don't want to do that. You can also print the screen. So what's there on the screen can be printed, so you can have that. If you don't know how to do that, Donna has put that in the chat. So in the chat, there is instructions on how to print that screen. But let's go on with the exercises. So there's the idea of renewing your mind. This is an exercise that I chose to help us with this getting to that newness of life using these tools. So I'd like you to take just a moment to think of your life and to pick something in your life that's outworn, outmoded, outdated, no longer useful. Pick something. Now, this can be a habit that you have. It can be a pattern of your life. It can be a situation that you keep finding yourself in over and over again. It can be the company of some people. It can be a person or people that you keep company. Pick one of those that's something in your life that's outworn. It's lost its usefulness. Just take a moment. Whatever comes up, take that. You may want to write it down. Have you got that? So you remember that in Unity, we often talk about denials and affirmations. I want to give a fresh look at that. Denials are when we deny something the power over us that it may have. Something that doesn't work for us, we deny that any power in our lives. I'd like to put it this way. This is not who I am. Take the situation, write it down. You can do this later if you need to. This is not who I am. Laziness, I'm going to give an example. Laziness. Laziness is not who I am. I am not lazy. Then pivot. We've talked about pivoting before, and pivot to a positive affirmation of that. And it would be just the opposite. I am energetic. I am purposeful, I might say, to go with that laziness thing. That's the opposite side of it. But whatever your chosen aspect of your life is, once you have said, I am not that, flip it around and say, I am the very opposite, that positive approach, the affirmation. And you'll want to work with this affirmation over a period of time. You don't want to just do it once. The denial, once is enough. Get to the affirmation, really work with it, focus on it, stay with it, hold it in your mind. Beyond this, I am, also imbue that thing with power by saying I am, and use one of the 12 powers that we know. All of last year, we considered those 12 powers, and you'll remember a lot of them. If you don't have them, email me and I'll give you a look at that. There are several books that you could look at. I'll even just give you a list of those 12 powers so that you can take that and use that. These powers that we know very well: love, wisdom, imagination, release, strength, power, and more. But not only are you going to say, I am, perhaps it's resourceful. You would say, I am power. I am love. Whatever those strengths seems to match up and go with that. When we do chaplains are praying for you, if you've given a prayer request in, not only do we affirm the positive outcome, but we affirm the power that is there for the individual who has asked us to pray with them. So when you take the affirmation and you add to it that affirmation of the power, it's like claiming the power. When you claim that power, it does become very useful and very effective in your life. Then one final step on this in renewing of your mind. Visualize it. You're making a movie. You're making a movie of something that you haven't had before. You've written this screenplay, and that movie is flashing before your eyes. And you're seeing yourself exactly as you imagine yourself to be. You're seeing yourself doing what you've wanted to do. You're seeing yourself feeling in the way you've wanted to feel. You're seeing yourself actually being that which you have affirmed. It's your own movie. Nobody else is watching it. But visualize that strongly, feel it strongly, and you will make use of this tool of renewing your mind. That's the first exercise. And the second is listening to spirit. We'll do this a bit more in our meditation as we go ahead. But we often say that in the silence, there is wisdom. In the silence, there is knowing. So listening to spirit is important. Of course, it's sitting in the silence. And it's asking the question, letting that question be out there in front. Who am I? You're assessing your beingness. And when you do that, when you remember who you truly are, what your true nature is, the life that you have will be new. It'll be as though it is new. And then, of course, what comes behind that is what is mine to do. Once we know who we are, we sit in the silence and we know readily what is ours to do and what is not ours to do. Those are the exercises. Tom, you can take that down now. Again, if you haven't, a way of getting that exercise, you're not able to print the screen or you didn't write it down, just let me know and I will get to you that exercise so you can work with it in the week ahead. So we looked at the 3 R's. Again, you can probably say them with me. Remember, renew, rejuvenate. Those important tools to be able to experience the newness of life that's available for us. So I want to go back to India for a minute, just finish it off. The place that I stayed primarily when I was in India was an Ayurvedic resort in the seaside town of Varkala, I said. And many Westerners came there for what they called a rejuvenation. Now, there weren't so many Americans or Canadians, but there were a lot of Europeans that came there. Europeans are used to taking a holiday that's more extended than what we might take. They would come for a month for a rejuvenation, for a sense of newness for their life that they could go back and carry back with them. One particular group came to the Ayurvedic resort where I was. Eden Garden was the name of the resort. And they came, and I remember the middle of one morning, a big bus, there's a small road beside that resort, but the big bus pulled up, and then there was a lift, a door that opened, and a lift came down with one of the people in a wheelchair. And then went up and came down, and went up and came down, and 12 people in wheelchairs disembarked from that bus. They were there for a rejuvenation. They were all MS patients. They were suffering with MS, and they came to see if working with that Ayurvedic regimen would help them in their disease. Well, they were renewed in ways. They were given particular food to eat that was contributing to, and it was different for each one as each one was assessed. And what was necessary was given, kind of like my chef priest, what was needful was given to them to give that sense of renewal, to give that sense of rejuvenation. And of course, there was massage, and there was spiritual practice. There was yoga, even for those in wheelchairs. They could do that at some level. It's modified from the usual practice. But over that course of, and I think they stayed there for 2 months, those MS patients suddenly began to experience a newness of life for them. Suddenly were able to go back to a point earlier in their life and reclaim some of that, a new sense or invigorating, so that they went back to a place in their life earlier. And when they left, there were only 2 who left in wheelchairs. The other 10 of those 12 patients walked onto that bus. They had experienced newness of life in this process of reaching back, because they reached back millennia to the ancient traditions of Ayurveda. And perhaps they even spiritually reached back to a greater degree. They reached back, they renewed their life, they experienced rejuvenation. And so it was for them a life-giving, an experience of newness of life. So the same is true for us. And I challenge you today to experience newness of life by using some of these tools: remembering, renewing, rejuvenating. And so it is. Amen.
Oh, what a wonderful story, Reverend Neal. Very touching, very beautiful. So now please prepare for meditation as we listen to our meditation song, In the Still Small Voice, Mark Welch.
In the still small voice, listen for an answer. It may be a whisper, sounding like a dream. In a still small voice, there will be an answer. It is the voice of God. Listen for the voice of God. In the still small voice, listen for an answer. It may be a whisper, sounding like a dream. In the still small voice, there will be an answer. It is the voice of God. Listen for the voice of God. Listen, listen. In the still small voice, listen for an answer. It may be a whisper, sounding like a dream. In the still small voice, there will be an answer. It is the voice of God. Listen for the voice of God. Listen for the voice of God. It is the voice of God. Listen to the voice of God.
So as we hear this hushed tones imploring us to listen to the voice of God, let us stay in that place of quiet. Let us be, let us not think of our doing, those things that we have on our schedule or that we left undone. Let us simply be here and be now. The token of that is our breath as we just observe our breathing. So we move on into this time, into this quiet. we walk through a narrow passageway that opens into a greater one, that opens into a universe without dimension, without end. And as we do that, we realize that we're important in this universe, small though we may seem, and unlimited though it may be. We are important. We have a purpose in being here. So we sit in awe. And as we sit, we begin to listen. As we listen, we hear a voice that seems to come not from without, but from within us. Yet it is the voice of that universe. And that voice tells us that everything in that universe is designed for good. Absolutely, everything is designed for good. That any errors that may have been made are but errors, signs that a change of direction is needed. And then we get the sense that we are incredibly valuable. We are connected with that universe that's kind of speaking through us. And we see our value in that as we know that we're expressions of the divine. We are linked forever and linked also with each other. So in this moment of quiet, reflect on the question, who am I? What is the nature of my being? We spend time in that consideration. And eventually we come back from that unlimited universe, knowing that we bring it back with us on the inside, knowing that we carry with us that insight into who we are, that understanding of the value that we have. And we are grateful. And so we bring our awareness back to the place we are in this physical world, to the time that is now. Grateful for insight, grateful for understanding, grateful for the very nature that is us. We open our eyes and wiggle our fingers and toes, and we are back here. But we're renewed. We've remembered. We have new life. We are invigorated. And so it is.
And so it is. And so we let it be. So now is the time for us to share our gifts and our offerings and our tithes. Unity of Payson greatly appreciates your gifts in support of this ministry. These gifts not only support this spiritual community, but they go out to the larger community as well. As you listen to the offering song, you'll have time to make a contribution. If you will go to unityofpayson.org and click on the donate button, you will come to this screen here and you can make a contribution that way. Now let's bring our attention to our gift at this time, and let's call to mind our heart's desires. Let's remember who we truly are and who we can be in this world. As together we affirm, freely we give and freely we receive. The offertory song, I release and I let go.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. Didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go, let it all go. And this is what you've got to say. Well, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Well, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Oh, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God.
And so now it is time for the dedication of our offering. We are grateful for these gifts. We bless these gifts and we bless the givers. And let us say together the dedication. Divine love through us blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. We are abundantly prosperous, and we give thanks. And so it is. We say amen, amen, and amen. Moving forward, our theme continues, newness of life. The affirmation for us is, I open myself to change, follow the direction of Spirit, and experience life anew. And next Sunday's speaker is Reverend Christina Garza from Unity of Nashville. with special music, Phyllis Papineau. I just want to say that Christina was in my class, my licensed Unity teacher class, and also was in class with Neal. And so she obtained her licensed Unity teacher before she was ordained as a minister, just like Reverend Neal. So this is a special occasion for her to speak for us. So I have some announcements and I will share them with you. But there are many things happening, so please check the website at unityofpayson.org or the Monday email newsletter for all of the details. I do want to say, if you can stay until I'm finished reading the announcements and Neal does his PS, he would like to greet each of you online. I noticed that 2 have already left for the day, but there's still several of us here. So the announcements today will be Morning Cafe on Zoom, 9:30, Monday through Saturday. It's a fun time for us to get together and start the day off right. We have Course in Miracles with Reverend Neal, Tuesday, January 18th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. This is held on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. And now we are broadcasting. It's been going on, but we haven't broadcasted it. Qigong and Tai Chi moving meditation with Teresa Keller every Sunday and Wednesday for 40 minutes at 4:30 p.m. This involves deep breathing, gentle stretch, visualization, and balance work for calming the mind and energizing the body and the spirit. And it's our Zoom channel, Unity of Payson. And now we have PS from Neal.
So we have some great things happening, and I just want to let you know that there are some other new things on the horizon, and we'll keep you updated on that. Do pay attention to that newsletter, because that newsletter will help you to be current with everything that's happening. Sometimes there are changes that are happening, and as the changes happen, we want to adjust to that and be able to be aware of what is happening. Just one note, 3 weeks from today, we will begin the series on forgiveness. And that series will go throughout the month of February. We will also do a class on forgiveness to go with that. It'll be an opportunity for us to expand and look at that a little more fully than we can in a 20-minute message. The class will happen at 1 o'clock, so it'll give you time to have some lunch and then come back and discuss a little more fully what we've spoken of earlier in the day on the message. A class on forgiveness. As I'm researching everything and putting it together, I am excited about it, and I know you won't want to miss that. Again, please stay after so I can greet you. And we'll go on to our closing with the peace song and the prayer for protection.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that is meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes,
of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
So I hope you've stayed here for a minute. Tom, if you can put us on, oh, well, I guess I can do that. Put us on gallery view. And so I can say hello to everybody. Kathy Hicken, always here, and I appreciate you being here, Kathy. Anne Marie has figured out how to do it on her phone, so Anne Marie is here. Ed, our intrepid leader of Harmony Hikers, is with us today, and also one of our board members, Gaia. Lovely to see you, and Betty Daly, of course, and Joyous Rainbow from Colorado, Frosty from Mesa, Phyllis and Mike are with us today, Claudette and maybe Scott as well, and Marianne. You are delightful. You are my buds, my best friends, and I am so glad that you're with us here today. And spread the word. Invite somebody to come along next week, and we will see you all. Blessings. We bless each other.
Everybody.
On our way.
Blessings. Bye, y'all.